This sword has sat in a warehouse for 100 years, untouched by anyone, because its holy power is strong enough to kill whoever wields it. But I stared at it, my eyes gleaming. Even though it's a holy sword, at its core, it's still just a weapon. If I could just analyze the magical principles behind the engravings on the blade, I could figure out the root cause of its magical repulsion. Then, I could easily exploit the holy sword's weakness. But just 2.5 days ago, I was nothing more than the invisible side character in the hero's party. But what no one knew was that I possessed a cheat-level talent that let me instantly learn any skill. So, when the Magic Empire led its massive army to invade the Alliance of Light, I, driven by my greed, resolutely joined the party to subjugate the Demon King. But reality hit me hard. The Alliance of Light was completely crushed by the Demon King's empire. And as they were dying, my companions finally had a moment of clarity, saying that if they could do it all over again, they would have definitely chosen me to be the leader of the hero's party. Because I had that cheat-level talent, I became the one who could do anything in the party. The jack of all trades. If only I had focused solely on swordsmanship from the start, and not bothered with all those other random skills, maybe this tragic disaster would never have happened. Hearing that, I immediately frowned. Who the hell cares about being some hero? I've suffered enough in this life. So, in the final moments as my life faded away, only one persistent thought remained in my mind. Damn you, cruel fate. In my next life, just let me be a rich young master who never has to worry about a thing. When I opened my eyes again, time had rewound 15 years. And what surprised me even more was that I hadn't returned to my original body. Instead, just as I wished, I had possessed the body of a young master from an incredibly powerful and wealthy family. But in the next second, I couldn't smile anymore. I never would have guessed that the family name would be the Bellin family, one of the great dark magic houses. Just hearing that sinister-sounding name tells you everything. This was one of the two great families that propped up the magic empire. Young Master Chris of the Bellin family. Right now, he was staring out the window with a melancholic gaze. These demonic beasts, which should only exist on battlefields of extinction, were actually working peacefully here. And I knew, with absolute clarity, exactly who this guy the first had possessed was. This body's owner was named Christian van Bellen Hazer. I don't know if it was a coincidence or a cruel twist of fate, but it was almost identical to my previous name, Chris Van. More importantly, that word, Van, in his name, signified his status as a branch of the main Bellin family. In other words, I am now a member of the dark magic house of Duke Bellin, a young master from the branch family of Count Hazer. But that wasn't really a problem. The Magic Empire recognizes the inheritance rights of its branch families. They also have a chance to take control of the main family's power. On top of that, the Hazer family possesses wealth so vast it could rival a nation's. Because of that, almost no one in the Magic Empire dares to look down on this lineage. Now, Count Hazer has two heirs. The eldest son, Chris, is the absolute worst of the worst, a complete waste of space. They say he causes nothing but catastrophic trouble all day long. He was completely abandoned by his family long ago. And of all people, I just had to possess this eldest son. According to the memories from my past life, the original Christian is supposed to die in 2 years, and he'll be executed by his own honor-obsessed Count Hazer family. The reason is very simple. Because this guy is a complete and utter scoundrel and villain. Right now, I'm thinking to myself if I just act obediently and keep my head down, could I avoid being killed? So, I might as well ignore everything and just enjoy myself for now. The good life of this rich young master is over. But how could I possibly just stand by and do nothing? If I just stood by and watched the Camp of Light fall to ruin, this body of mine wouldn't survive either. That bloodthirsty Demon King doesn't just want to rule the Camp of Light. What he wants is Ragnarok, the complete and utter destruction of the entire world. In my past life, by the time everyone realized what was happening, no one was left who could stop him. The Demon King will slaughter all the humans in the lands he conquers and offer them up as sacrifices. When that time comes, it won't just be the Camp of Light that's finished. Even this demonic empire behind the Demon King will be destroyed along with it. Besides, just stopping a god level, bloodthirsty Demon King isn't nearly enough. He's not the only one who wants to destroy the world. Throughout the entire demonic empire, there are hordes of fanatics following the Demon King, just waiting for the world to collapse. So, if I want to stop all of this from happening, I must rise to a position higher than the bloodthirsty Demon King. And become someone powerful enough to suppress that group of lunatics at the top of the demonic empire. Right now, there are only 5 years left until the start of the Age of Extinction. In any case, doing nothing is a dead end. But if I succeed, it's not just this Hazer family right here, but everything in the entire demonic empire will be mine for the taking. With the resolve of someone burning their bridges, I went straight to find this body's father, Count Hazer. The moment we met, his eyes were filled with disgust. But that's to be expected. After all, the original owner of this body was a worthless piece of trash who could never amount to anything. Seeing that, I quickly rushed forward, my apology incredibly sincere. I explained that I had come specifically to apologize for the mistakes I'd made. I feel an immense sense of guilt for everything I've done in the past. With that said, I dropped directly to my knees and bowed my head low. But my old man couldn't be bothered to waste a single word on me. He'd already heard this kind of pathetic confession from me countless times. I will atone for my mistakes with my actions. So please, lock me in the family's punishment cave. I will reflect on myself in there for 1 month. The so-called punishment cave is actually a forbidden place where high-ranking demons are sent to be punished for their misdeeds. There isn't a single trace of light inside, and all 5 senses are completely blocked. Even if a demon stays inside for just a few days, their mind will be on the verge of collapse. And as it happens, I need a place where I can get away from all prying eyes and be truly alone. A sneer appeared on my old man's face. Every time I cause trouble, I make a mountain of promises, but every single time, I end up disappointing him completely. He paused, and then his voice took on a flat, indifferent tone, like someone who had completely given up. Fine, I'll let you fool me one last time. He said he would have them open the punishment cave. But this would be his last time tolerating my behavior. If I failed to change as I promised, the consequence waiting for me was to be disowned by the family. Being publicly disowned by the family head in the demonic empire is the same as being sentenced to death. Countless demons have been cast out by their families for their wicked deeds. The very instant they lose that protection, they're torn to pieces by their enemies. I replied in a low voice. But if I truly do change, as I've promised, I hope that you, Father, will grant me one request. Count Hazard looked utterly incredulous. He said that as long as I could truly turn over a new leaf, he would grant me any request I made. Not long after, the butler, Cox, came to lead me away. He was a deformed offspring, born from the union of a human and a vampire. As we walked, all the servants in the household hid in the distance, whispering amongst themselves. Did you hear? That good-for-nothing actually asked to enter the punishment cave himself. He just caused such a huge disaster not long ago. You don't have to be a genius to know he's trying to use this as an excuse to escape the Count's wrath. They even secretly started a betting pool, guessing how long I could last in the punishment cave. Under the guidance of the butler, Cox, I soon arrived at the entrance. On both sides of the cave's mouth stood Death Knights, summoned by a forbidden art. The sight of it sent a jolt through my heart. Using Death Knights as gate guards, truly the typical style of the magical empire. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to enter the cave, an icy voice suddenly shouted from behind me. I turned my head to see a young boy standing behind me who bore a striking resemblance to this body's original appearance, and he was none other than the original owner's own younger brother. Killian von Bellen Hazard, completely different from his good-for-nothing older brother. Killian was steadfast and composed, widely recognized by the family as the model heir. But in the next second, the cold, sharp edge of a sword was pressed directly against my neck. With a calm expression, I asked what Killian intended to do. It didn't seem like he had come specifically to see me off. A hint of killing intent shone in Killian's eyes. If I ever dared to do anything to bring shame upon the family again. Then he, Killian Hazard, swore today that he would kill me with his own hands. Those words sent a chill through me. In my past life, I had crossed swords with the man Killian grew up to be. He was a powerful sorcerer who specialized in curses and dark magic, so it wasn't hard to guess that this guy was the key person who, 2 years from now, would personally push the original owner to his death. I just never expected the younger version of Killian to be so adorable. Thinking of this, I spoke coldly. Get that sword of yours away from me. After speaking, I couldn't be bothered to look at him again and turned, walking straight towards the gate of the punishment cave. The next second, I vanished from Killian's sight. The moment I stepped into the cave, an endless darkness instantly devoured my senses. I couldn't see a thing, nor could I hear a single sound. Even my sense of smell was completely blocked. Anyone else would have a complete mental breakdown after a few days in a place like this. But to me, this was nothing at all. I've survived situations 10 times more terrifying in my past life. Back when I was a treasure hunter, I endured environments far harsher than this. Having my 5 senses sealed off actually allows me to focus more on looking inward. This is the perfect opportunity to repair this ravaged body. However, you could say that completely reshaping one's inner body is something almost no one in this world can achieve. But aside from me, that is. In my past life, I wasn't just a top-tier warrior, I was also a master of medicine. People even called me a godly doctor. If I combine that with the body transformation techniques I learned in the circus, along with these magic crystals containing different elemental properties, I'll have a chance to achieve a complete rebirth. But I have to thank the Hazard family's immense financial power for this. Even in this situation, they're able to grant even the unreasonable requests made by a prodigal son like me. I was able to get my hands on something as rare as magic crystals without any effort at all. I remember how in my past life, my companions and I fought and nearly died for just a single crystal. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sigh. Alright then, let's start by purifying the impurities. This step is incredibly tedious, but it is absolutely crucial. I have to use the magic stones to slowly and meticulously cleanse every single contaminated part of my body. If even a single trace of impurity remains, it will cause the process of rebirth to fail. In a severe case, I could even end up seriously injured or permanently crippled. For a moment there in the Duke's mansion, Count Hazard's heart was filled with a strange irritation as he listened to the butler's report. I did go into the punishment cave obediently, but the concern is that by now I might be so weak that I can't even call for help. Hearing this, Count Hazard's brow furrowed even more tightly. Maybe he really shouldn't have agreed to this whole thing back then. His son, Christian, hadn't always been this useless. When he was young, his talent was extraordinary. He was the heir in whom the entire family had placed their hopes. But it was precisely because his talent was so great that he began to grow arrogant and conceited. His character twisted, little by little, until he completely degenerated into worthless sludge. He sighed to himself. Rather than letting him degenerate day by day like this, it would be better to let me perish in there this time. And yet, that final promise I'd made, and the exceptionally determined look in my eyes, kept flashing in his mind. It seems I've been fooled by that punk again, the Count muttered, then let his head fall in defeat. He had actually been hoping for something different this time. Just then, Cox stepped forward again and said, "In addition, there is one other thing to report. Young Master Christian also brought a large quantity of magic stones into the cave. Among them were dream stones, which can make people hallucinate." At this, the Count slammed his fist violently on the table. The last shred of hope in his eyes was completely extinguished. Then don't bother with him. Just let him fend for himself and die in there. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Count Hazard stood with a grave expression at the entrance of the punishment cave. There was only one thought in his mind, that his eldest son was probably a complete wreck by now. Thinking this, he gritted his teeth and threw open the cave door. The next second, his pupils contracted, and he froze on the spot. I was standing there inside the cave, perfectly still, with a calm and indifferent expression. My demeanor was so different, it was as if I were a completely different person from the useless bum I used to be. The Count stared hard at me for a long time, unable to believe his own eyes. Surprising, isn't it? You probably never dreamed that I could make it through this 1 month in one piece. But I already told you. I said I would change in there and then walk out with my head held high. Count Hazard was speechless for a long while, because this was completely different from the miserable state he had expected. The me standing before him showed not a single sign of the decadent haze that comes from indulging in dreamstones. But the Count still didn't relent. Although it seems you've held on, it's most likely because the punishment cave's curse just happened to suit your constitution. So don't you get carried away. After all, even now, he still couldn't believe this kid of his could truly turn over a new leaf. At this, I couldn't help but laugh to myself. He must think I was half dead in there, just barely hanging on. But the reality was the exact opposite. I even felt that a month wasn't enough time. Using that white magic stone, I completely reshaped my body into the perfect physique for practicing swordsmanship. Every cell in my body felt as if it had been reactivated, and that dream stone, which is considered such a dangerous item, turned out to be a stroke of genius. Although it's defined as an anesthetic, hallucinatory magic stone, it was thanks to its illusion that the time it took to reshape my body was cut by more than half. More importantly, I also successfully condensed a dual magic core. The inner layer is naturally the core of light, while the outer layer is enveloped by a darkness core. This way, I can perfectly conceal my light magic. Even if someone directly probes my magic core, they'll never discover its secret. It's just that during that time, someone deliberately threw a dreamstone through the crack in my door. It seems someone in the family can't wait for me to get lost in illusions and completely fall into depravity. In that case, bring it on. You lot will sooner or later become stepping stones for my breakthrough. With that thought, I slowly reined in my emotions. For now, I've fulfilled my promise. So, Father, may I have your permission to use the Black Claw Knights training grounds? Count Hazard's face immediately filled with shock. The Black Claw Knights are not a place a failure like me can just casually step into. As it turns out, the dark magic families control a total of 3 great guardian knight orders. They are known as the 3 great pillars of the dark forces. Among them, the Black Claw Knights are the direct force of the Hazard family. Seeing that my father was about to refuse, I immediately added that I didn't want to officially join their ranks. I just wanted to borrow the training grounds to work on my physical fitness, that's all. Even just watching the Black Claw Knights train would be enough to inspire me. The Count stared at me in silence for a long time. That explanation is acceptable, but if I bring shame to the family in front of the Black Claw Knights, then I will have to bear the consequences myself. With that, the Count turned to leave. Just then, I suddenly called out to him. There is one more thing I need to ask of you. The scene then shifts to the Black Claw Knights training grounds. The moment I set foot on the field, the once bustling training ground instantly fell deathly silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. They all stared at me in unison. Isn't that the good-for-nothing young master? What is he doing here? In truth, I had come here for another reason. A much more important objective: to enter the Hazard family's archives. The archives hold the Hazard family's collection of ancient dark magic tomes, passed down through generations. They are essential for anyone who wishes to practice dark magic. That day, my father, the Count, agreed to give me the key to the archives, but on one condition. I must obtain a handwritten letter of recommendation from Vice Commander Merlin. Things wouldn't have become so complicated. But the previous owner of this body once tried to steal the secret tomes from the archives to sell on the black market. Even now, I still think the original owner was nothing but a complete and utter failure and a disgrace to the family. But regardless, I now have to get Vice Commander Merlin's permission as soon as possible. Just then, a furious voice suddenly roared from beside me, declaring that this was no place for a failure like me. In response, I let out an extremely disdainful scoff. Are you suggesting that you're criticizing the Count? It was my father himself who permitted me to enter the training grounds. Just then, another voice slowly spoke up. He said he respected the Count's decision. But frankly, young Master Chris is indeed difficult to trust. Those words made my heart tighten. I looked up and saw a woman with a cold temperament standing not far away. She was none other than the Vice Commander of the Black Claw Knights, Merlin. Although Merlin had a faint smile on her face, a powerful and unmatched demonic aura was already silently pressing down on me. If this were the old Christian, at this moment, he would have been so terrified his legs would have given out. But the me of today simply adjusted my breathing slightly. Then, with a calm expression, I lowered my head. Greetings, Vice Commander. A flash of surprise instantly crossed Merlin's eyes. She hadn't expected me to actually withstand the pressure of her demonic aura. I replied in a calm voice. Since you put it that way, Vice Commander, then I will prove to you that I am worthy of using this training ground. There's usually only one way to make the demon folk respect you. I'm going to duel someone here, right now. And I'm going to win. At that, Merlin's face instantly fell. She clearly saw my words as the absurd ravings of a good-for-nothing young master. I'm not kidding. No demonic energy will be used during the fight. This will be a duel of pure physical strength. As you should know, the eldest son of House Hazard was once so depraved that he lost the vessel for storing demonic energy long ago. This left Merlin looking utterly baffled, wondering what kind of trick I was trying to pull now. With that said, my gaze shifted, landing on the young man beside Merlin. In that case, the opponent I choose is the second young master, Killian. Killian's face instantly flushed crimson. He felt deeply, gravely insulted. Seeing this, Merlin quickly stepped in to smooth things over. She suggested that it would be best if I chose a more suitable opponent. After all, I should be well aware that young master Killian reached the second realm long ago. That's not a level an ordinary 13-year-old can achieve. Without extraordinary, peerless talent, a normal person might not even reach it by their 20s. But I acted as if I hadn't heard a word, my gaze still locked on Killian. If I'm going to prove my worth, then of course I have to fight someone stronger than I am. Or could it be that the great and famous second young master is afraid of his own brother? Killian gritted his teeth in fury. If that's how it was going to be, he would accept this duel. Then, amid a clamor of boos and jeers, the two of them walked step by step onto the dueling ground. I then asked Merlin, what are the rules of the duel? Do we fight until one of us surrenders? Hearing this, Merlin slowly shook her head, her tone tinged with the cold amusement of someone watching a play. That would be too boring. How about we make the rule that it's over when one person is completely incapacitated? As Merlin finished speaking, my fist had already smashed viciously into Killian's face. The corner of my mouth curled into a mocking smile. What are you standing there in a daze for? Don't you know a duel can start at any moment? To be honest, this fight was practically cheating. No demonic energy, no weapons, just a hand-to-hand brawl. If this were a match of magic, I'm not even at 1 star right now. But when it comes to a fist fight in my past life, I clawed my way out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Besides, after my body was reforged in the punishment cave, my physical strength had already reached a 3-star level. In the next instant, the entire training ground fell deathly silent. Everyone stared, dumbfounded, as if their throats had been seized. At that moment, Killian was gritting his teeth, staggering back to his feet. There was a barely perceptible tremble in his voice. He wondered aloud if I had used some kind of unknown method. To that, I just let out a laugh. Otherwise, how could I have even touched you? At that, Killian completely snapped. He broke the rules and unleashed his demonic energy. The next moment, his fist, charged with that berserk energy, came smashing towards me. My eyes were locked onto that cloud of demonic energy. And within that chaotic black aura, I instantly spotted an incredibly faint opening. Without a moment's hesitation, I raised my hand and struck hard at that weak point. My punch landed squarely, smashing right into Killian. He went flying backward like a torn sack, hitting the ground with a heavy thud. The training ground was instantly plunged into dead silence. The demon folk of the Black Claw Knights were all completely stunned. They couldn't understand what on earth had just happened. Young Master Killian must have held back his demonic energy on purpose, probably worried he'd hurt that good-for-nothing. It has to be. Otherwise, how could it be possible to have his demonic energy scattered with a single punch? In their minds, precisely striking the weak point of the demonic energy to completely neutralize it was something that was simply impossible. But one person's reaction was completely different. At that moment, Merlin's face was incredibly stiff. Her eyes churned with shock and utter disbelief. I took it all in and laughed to myself. This should be enough to qualify me to stay at the training grounds, right? After training ended, I returned to my room. At this point, my magic level had already reached the first star of Magic Conductor. It's just that I'm not yet very proficient in using demonic energy. On top of that, this body still retains some of the chaotic demonic energy from before, which has cost me a lot of time. With that thought, I leaned back in my chair and gently rang a small bell. In the next moment, a phantom-like, ghostly figure drifted into view. The one who appeared was none other than my personal maid, Mary the Banshee. Seeing her, I couldn't help but complain internally. It's absolutely maddening. Who in their right mind makes a demon their personal maid? Even for a family of dark mages, this is just too ridiculous. I'll have to swap her for a normal human when I get the chance. The next day, I was getting ready to head to the training grounds again. But just as I was leaving the mansion, someone called out to me from behind. I turned and saw it was the Hazard family's half-vampire butler, Cox. Cox gave a slight bow. He said he was truly happy that the young master was now so diligent and driven. Even when everyone else looked down on me, he never gave up on me. He always believed in my vision. After listening to this heartfelt confession, I just smiled calmly. In my eyes, this guy was just getting sentimental for his own sake. The next second, my expression turned sharp. I don't recall ever asking you to believe in me. I watched Cox's retreating figure, my eyes turning cold. For some reason, there's always this indescribable scent of decay about him as soon as I set foot on the training grounds. But unlike the scorn and contempt from before, now there was something more in everyone's eyes. A hint of fear and curiosity. I thought to myself, looks like it's time to start slowly winning people over. At the same time, a demon kin rushed towards the vice captain's office, reporting that young Master Chris had come to the training grounds again today. Merlin didn't answer right away. Her mind was replaying yesterday's duel over and over. She recalled her analysis at the time. Young Master Killian's skills were clearly not bad, and could even be considered outstanding among his peers. But at the last second, young Master Chris somehow managed to pinpoint the weak spot in the demonic energy and dismantle the attack with just a single strike. It felt to her as if I had completely seen through the entire flow of the battle. If her suspicions were true, then my talent might even surpass that of the family's genius, young Master Arnold Bellin. At this thought, Merlin immediately dismissed the idea. Young Master Chris had already ruined his own magical foundation due to his past indulgence and depravity. So there was no way I could have, in such a short amount of time, caught up to those true geniuses. Merlin, deep in thought, was suddenly interrupted by a chaotic noise. She hurried to the office door. A knight hastily replied, "It's young Master Chris and an attendant. They're having a small disagreement." Merlin's gaze then followed the sound. But the one on the ground wasn't me at all. It was Caning, a one-star demon kin from the Knight's Order. At that moment, a mocking smile played on my lips as I slowly scanned the area. "So, you're from the Order of the Black Claw. It seems the Order is nothing special after all. They're not nearly as impressive as the rumors say." The faces of the Demonkin flushed crimson with anger. But they were too weak to do anything about it. After the men exchanged a glance, Torin, a level 2 Demonkin, immediately strode forward. Seeing this, I sneered inwardly. I knew all along that these proud knights would never willingly teach their swordsmanship and combat experience to someone they saw as a good-for-nothing. If that's the case, then my only choice is to learn by stealing their techniques in battle. So, as we fought, I made sure to observe my opponent's every move, Torin's fluid footwork, and his unique way of generating power that must be the Order's secret technique, the Meyer sword style. The next second, my longsword suddenly shot forward and struck Torin square in the face. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed, unconscious. All the Demonkins stared in utter disbelief. That good-for-nothing's dark core, wasn't it supposed to be crippled? So how in the world did he break through to level 1? A wave of shocked confusion swept through the crowd. Then, my voice rang out slowly. How disappointing. It seems my expectations for the Order of the Black Claw were far too high, and it seems the Order's strength has been stagnating for some time. As the vice captain, shouldn't you bear a great deal of responsibility for that? Everyone gasped. This lunatic, he actually dared to publicly provoke Vice Captain Merlin? Merlin scoffed, her gaze turning icy in an instant. She understood the excitement of winning a battle one shouldn't have. But wasn't I getting a little too carried away? Hearing that, I gestured casually toward Merlin, my words aimed directly at her. I just want the vice captain to show me the true strength of the Order of the Black Claw. Merlin's expression turned utterly glacial. If she were the one to fight, I probably wouldn't last a single second. I ignored Merlin's warning. Instead, I just smiled nonchalantly. A prominent figure like yourself, hailing from the main house. You wouldn't really use your full strength against me, would you? How about we also ban the use of dark magic entirely? You only use the power of a level 1, and we duel under those conditions? Merlin was so angry she actually laughed. Was I provoking her now? She was a peak level 4 Demonkin, for crying out loud. Her power was several entire realms beyond mine. Even if she only used a fraction of a level 1's power and stuck to the most basic Meyer sword style, she could still break both of my legs with ease. The moment she finished speaking, Merlin shot forward. Her longsword whistled through the air, cleaving down right where I stood. Clang. With a strained expression, I barely managed to raise my sword to block the blow. But Merlin's attacks were relentless, each strike faster than the last. As the seconds ticked by, it looked like a completely one-sided beatdown by Merlin. The watching Demonkin began to murmur. See? He can't hold out. How could that good-for-nothing possibly defeat Lady Merlin? But Merlin's own expression was growing increasingly rigid. Something's wrong. The gap in our strength was astronomical, yet not a single one of her attacks had truly landed. A powerful sense of unease washed over her. It was the same during his duel with young Master Killian and in all the other matches just now. This guy, he's been controlling the pace of the fight from the very beginning. Just then, I spoke up, a cheeky grin on my face. It seems things aren't quite going according to Lady Merlin's plan, are they? And it seems you, Vice Captain, aren't quite as amazing as I imagined. Merlin's face instantly flushed red with fury. This was the worst humiliation she had suffered since reaching the advanced ranks. She gritted her teeth, determined to finish off a troublesome piece of trash like me with a single blow. She channeled the demonic energy surging within her out through the blade of her sword. Then, she unleashed the strongest killing move of the Meyer sword style. As promised, she only used half her power. The power of a first-level demonic energy just to crush me. It should have been more than enough. But because she was so agitated, she put too much force into her move. A slight flaw appeared in her form, and her movements became oddly exaggerated. And in my eyes, that momentary flaw was magnified infinitely. In the blink of an eye, I precisely seized the opening and thrust my sword straight toward Merlin's unguarded abdomen. Merlin had no time to change her stance before I slammed my head straight into the bridge of her nose. Merlin cried out in pain, clutching her nose, not expecting this fight to completely slip from her control. Strictly speaking, this duel was still no different from cheating. Merlin was a top-tier swordswoman. But once her black magic was forbidden, her defense dropped significantly. Add to that her loss of composure, which revealed a fatal flaw, and her swordsmanship skills alone were not enough to cover that vulnerability. If Merlin were a demon truly focused on swordsmanship, and her heart as still as water, then this method probably wouldn't have worked. Just then, Merlin suddenly burst out laughing. She truly hadn't expected me to use such a tactic. She had underestimated her opponent from the very beginning. With that, she tightened her grip on her sword. From now on, she was going to take this fight seriously. But I just shrugged nonchalantly. I'm afraid the winner has already been decided. When I headbutted you just now, I lightly scratched you with my fingernail. If my nail had been coated in poison, what do you think would have happened? Merlin hesitated for a moment, then finally said in a low voice that she conceded. As payment, she would grant me any one request I made. As she spoke, she added, but in exchange, could I perhaps have a formal duel with you again? Hearing this, I gave a wicked smile. Another round? That means you'll owe me another favor. Saying this, I slowly leaned closer to Merlin and spoke in a voice only the two of us could hear. In that case, can you kneel before me? Merlin's tone was tinged with helplessness. As a direct member of the family, you should know that is an impossible condition. Because from beginning to end, my loyalty has always been to the main Bellin family. That is the true orthodox bloodline of the Dark Mage clan. Her words made me shrug. But what if I become the Dark Magic family's officially recognized young lord? But that's a title only for someone whose right to inheritance is acknowledged by the bloodline. Not to mention, all 5 of the current heirs are from the direct line of the main family. The rules never said someone from a branch family can't become an heir. Did they? In any case, I will accept your challenge. So how about we set the duel for 1 month from now? By then, there will be no rules to limit your power. Merlin looked completely bewildered, unable to understand what I meant. If my power isn't limited, there's no way you could possibly defeat me. I looked her straight in the eye. My tone was calm, yet filled with absolute confidence. Who knows? Sometimes, an egg can shatter a stone. In any case, let's meet again in 1 month, Lady Merlin. By then, I will make you understand who the true master you should be loyal to really is. After leaving the training grounds, I went straight to find my father, Count Hazar. As promised, here is Vice Captain Merlin's letter of recommendation. I won our duel, so I got this. I then added nonchalantly, those demonic beings have terrible fundamentals. That's the only reason I won. But they really do need to train properly. Hearing this, Count Hazard looked at me, completely shocked. He didn't expect me to actually fulfill our agreement. After a moment of silence, he tossed a key to me. I picked up the key, turned, and gently closed the door behind me. How satisfying. Not only did I successfully get the key to the library, but I even managed to quietly change Merlin's mind about me. Merlin is a top-tier demonic being from a dark magic family, a superstar level, high-ranking fighter who was active during the Age of Extinction. If I want to control the entire dark magic family, I have to make her completely loyal to me. Although I haven't won her over completely yet, the duel we'll have a month from now will be enough. Thinking about the Count's expression just now, I felt a slight stir in my heart. That expression must have been the pride only a father could have. It seems even demonic beings have family bonds. The original owner of this body, his father, might be much better than the one I had in my previous life. In that case, I won't let you down, old man. Soon, I arrived at the Hazard family's library. Research on blood magic summoning. An in-depth analysis of curses. All of them were forbidden dark magic, explicitly banned by the Light faction. I had just reached out to pull out a book that interested me, when a ghostly blue face suddenly appeared in the gap. Welcome, young Master Chris. It sent a shiver right down my spine. Why in the world would they make a ghost? Mary, the administrator? And aren't you my personal maid? When did you become a librarian? Mary explained shyly. Well, I've always lived here, you see. After saying that, Mary suddenly leaned in bashfully. Young master, by asking that so suddenly, does that mean you only want me to be your private maid? That was the last straw. I roared, shut up. I need to read in peace and quiet. At that, the maid Mary glanced at the book in my hand and quickly replied, saying that the one I had chosen recorded what was known as the 4-star dark magic, the binding seal, and that it was impossible for me to understand at my current level. Don't worry, you should know that your master is a 1 in a million genius. Mary was silent for a few seconds before reluctantly playing along. Yes, yes, our dearest young master is not only handsome and charming, but also a peerless genius. Also, did the young master choose this book for a specific reason? I replied coolly, to catch a little rat hiding in the shadows. And this rat is the one who secretly threw the dreamstone in the punishment cave. Attempting to frame me, my first suspect is my dear younger brother, Killian. He's always despised his worthless older brother, so his motive is the most obvious. The second is Cox, the butler. Despite not being a member of the clan, he can freely enter and exit the punishment cave, which makes him extremely suspicious. So, the best way to lure this rat out is to put on an act. An act where I go back to being the worthless bastard they all want to see. With this in mind, I first went to the training grounds. When the time was right, I immediately stopped my training. A demonic being approached me warmly, asking why I was heading back so early today. I put on an annoyed expression. This day in, day out training is going to kill me. I'll leave this kind of thing to you guys. Then, when it was time for dinner, I violently swept the entire table of food onto the floor. You can't even prepare a decent meal. This scene happened to be witnessed by Count Hazard. He thought to himself that he had been too naive to think he'd actually started to believe I was getting better. Watching my old man's back, I felt a bit conflicted, but I had to do this. Because this act would benefit the entire Hazard family. For the next few days, I frantically spread rumors that I had gone back to being a good-for-nothing. I bullied the maids who were cleaning and squandered money left and right. I also bought a pile of useless luxury goods. At night, Mary even used her ghost tricks to float in midair and pour me a drink. Leaning back in my chair, I couldn't help but complain to myself. I never thought in my lifetime I'd actually have the ghost Mary serving me drinks. Then, I said calmly, didn't I tell you before? I'm preparing to catch a rat hiding in the shadows. Hearing this, Mary looked completely surprised. Has the young master already learned the restraining seal? Isn't that to be expected? And with my improvements, even low-rank users can use it normally now. After all, I haven't just been eating, drinking, and playing around this whole time. Just then, with a loud bang, the door was violently thrown open from the outside. Killian glared at me menacingly. So this is all you amount to? He had thought I had actually decided to turn over a new leaf. This startled me a little, because I saw genuine anger in Killian's eyes. Not a trace of glee or calculation. It looks like I can cross Killian off the list of suspects. Realizing this, I decided to come clean. Right now, there's someone in this house who can't wait for me to completely fall apart. I'm just playing along with their act for now. The moment I finished speaking, my expression suddenly changed and I roared. What is this garbage wine? It's not what I wanted. Get the butler, Cox, over here. The terrified servant quickly replied that Mr. Cox was currently busy with an important matter. He's busy, is he? In that case, I'll go pay him a visit myself. I then barged straight into the butler's office and, with a slam, smashed the wine bottle hard on his desk. His face instantly turning deathly pale, Cox hurriedly got up from his wobbly chair. What brings the young master here? But the only response he got was the sound of splashing. I poured all the red wine from the bottle right out. Cox, are you looking down on me? Daring to serve me this cheap, fake wine. But unexpectedly, Cox suppressed his anger and replied respectfully that he would immediately have someone bring me a wine to my liking. I suddenly pointed a finger at Cox's face. No need. As a show of my trust, I'll have to trouble the butler to make the trip himself. Cox explained hesitantly that he was currently handling important business, and really couldn't get away. Hearing this, I suddenly raised my hand and patted his cheek. Looking as distracted as you are, how can you possibly handle your business properly? Besides, your suit is dirty now. It's a good chance to go get changed anyway. With no other choice, Cox could only turn and leave reluctantly. Watching his back, a flash of understanding crossed my eyes. That guy probably thinks I can't understand any of those complex documents. That must be why he felt safe leaving. In reality, I know which numbers on them are secret contact codes. And I can see which projects have suspicious financial movements at a glance. But even so, I'm still missing the crucial evidence. Just then, Cox hurried back in through the door, announcing he had brought the fine wine I wanted. I took the bottle and slowly unscrewed the cap. Cox, are you feeling very dissatisfied right now? Thinking that I'm just causing unreasonable trouble? Hearing this, Cox quickly waved his hands in denial. Young master, you must be joking. How could I dare to have such a thought? I suddenly showed a friendly smile. But I have to say, this attitude of yours is quite to my liking. It seems I'm very fond of this loyalty of yours. Gratitude immediately filled Cox's face. He said it was his honor to receive the young master's approval, and that no matter what, he had always been completely loyal to me. Then, as if he had suddenly remembered something, Cox said there was a matter he had to remind me about. My friends wanted to meet up at the old spot in secret. Then, his tone shifted as he put on a look of concern. But in his opinion, it would be better if I didn't go. Those people have a bad reputation, and you might get into trouble. I just chuckled at that and said I would be there on time. With that, a meaningful smile crept across my face. The fish had finally taken the bait. It seems things are progressing even more smoothly than I had anticipated. And I knew perfectly well that the original Christian's so-called friends were nothing but a bunch of worthless trash who enjoy the same filth. Basically, they were the good-for-nothing, direct descendants of powerful families. Just as I arrived at the meeting spot, one of the demons suddenly started laughing. I heard a rumor recently that Christian wants to turn over a new leaf. That's hilarious. How could the most troublesome piece of trash among them possibly change his ways? I glanced sideways at the girl serving drinks. She looked to be only about 13 or 14 years old. Yet she was being used as a tool for pouring wine. What a bunch of despicable degenerates. I took the wine glass, brought it to my lips, and just gave it a light sniff. Just as I thought they had mixed something into the wine. It was a forbidden magic potion that can cloud the mind. The next second, I immediately raised my hand and threw the wine harshly into his face. To think you'd joke around using sacred wine. And judging by your reaction, you already knew something was added to the wine, didn't you? With that, I glanced at the girl, who was so frightened she was about to cry. Advanced black magic. Slumber. The girl's eyelids grew heavy, and she slowly slumped onto the sofa, fast asleep. The demon's eyes instantly widened in shock. Christian, you waste. Since when could you use black magic so skillfully? I paid no mind to their exclamations. Instead, I grabbed the heads of the two demons next to me with both hands and viciously slammed them onto the desktop. This isn't the time to be surprised by something like this, is it? I grabbed both of their heads and repeatedly smashed them against the hard wooden table. The fat one among them was instantly scared out of his wits. He didn't understand how he could have possibly offended me. My gaze was as cold as ice at that moment. If you can't even see your own sins, then you might as well just die here. In a flash, I had easily subdued all the rich brats. Then, with a wave of my hand, I cast darkness ropes, binding their hands and feet tightly. It was only then that they finally broke down and confessed. Turns out, someone had ordered them to drug my wine. They were also supposed to kill the serving girl and then pin the crime on me. And that person was none other than Cox, the butler of the Hazard family. The next moment, two pitch black marks were instantly branded onto their foreheads. This was an improved version I created, capable of controlling the actions of others. The black magic restraining seal. From this moment on, these two are my eternal slaves. Meanwhile, in Count Hazard's office, Cox came stumbling and crawling in. Young Master Christian, he killed someone last night while drunk. He killed that serving girl. He even threw her body into the river. And now, the Demon Tribunal has already received the news. Count Hazard's expression sank to rock bottom. But in the end, it all came down to a single, heavy, and cold command. Then bring Christian to the tribunal first. He was preparing to use the Hazard family's right of immediate judgment. The scene then shifts to the Demon Tribunal. I took a deep breath, and then with a composed tone, stated that I had been framed. But Count Hazard, still stone-faced, barked coldly. How dare you still try to argue at a time like this? Cox has already submitted the eyewitness testimony. All the evidence is conclusive. To this, I just gave a faint shrug. Could there be some sort of misunderstanding? After all, this incident never happened. When you say, the deceased, are you referring to this young lady? As soon as I finished speaking, the side door of the tribunal was gently pushed open. The girl who they claimed I'd thrown into the river was standing right there, completely unharmed. As a witness, she testified that I had only put her to sleep with magic. And that when she woke up, I was the one who personally took her home. The ones who actually drugged her were those two. At that moment, I quietly snapped my fingers behind my back. The two scoundrels on whom I had placed the seal of restraint immediately began to tremble. Everything the little girl said is true. They admitted they had been forced to give false testimony. The real culprit was the butler, Cox. He was the one who threatened and bribed them to drug the girl and then frame me for it. Cox's face instantly turned ashen. This is outrageous slander. He's a profligate son, and he forced them to make up these lies. As the eldest son of this family, how could I possibly conspire with outsiders to pull a prank that would ruin our family's reputation? Seeing this, I dropped the playful act. I turned to Count Hazard in the main seat and bowed deeply. My Lord Count, I am the direct victim of this conspiracy. I request permission to temporarily assume your authority to preside over this trial. Allow me to interrogate the suspect, Cox, myself. Count Hazard stared intently at my face. His heart was still filled with distrust for his eldest son, but in the end, he slowly nodded. But, he warned, the moment you do anything inappropriate, this authority will be revoked. Hearing this, I turned and strode to the center of the tribunal. I shall represent the will of the supreme ruler of the Magic Empire, His Majesty the Magic Emperor. In the name of the Dark Magic Clan, masters of the eastern wing of the Southern Empire. I will now question the defendant, Cox. Do you swear to tell this court nothing but the truth? Left with no choice, Cox could only bite the bullet, bow, and swear the oath. My face was expressionless as I spoke again in a deep voice. I, as the agent of the Magic Emperor, ask you again, Defendant Cox, do you swear that not a single word you speak will be false? Just as Cox was about to open his mouth, a magical sigil shot like a bolt of lightning into the space between his brows. His eyes immediately glazed over. He found he couldn't make a sound, and everyone else in the court turned deathly pale. That was a 4-star, high-level dark magic spell. Even for a veteran archmage, a 4-star spell would require immense effort to cast. So how could a child with less than 1 star power possibly cast such a thing? I calmly swept my gaze over the shocked faces in the room. My tone was as calm as if I were discussing something trivial. It's nothing so incredible. This is a restraint seal I modified myself. I lowered the magic power threshold so that even a low-level mage can activate it. At that moment, the power of the seal of restraint was like an invisible shackle, clamping down on Cox's will. He was completely unable to lie, and could only spit out the truth in broken fragments. He confessed that he was only following orders. Someone was blackmailing him. His mission was to completely destroy the eldest son of House Hazard, no matter the cost. And the plan had been in motion since I was a child. I raised an eyebrow. That, blackmail, you mentioned it must be about your years of embezzlement, correct? So, who was it that gave you this order? The power of the seal of restraint surged. Cox's mouth opened against his will, and a single name burst from his throat, echoing through the entire tribunal. It was Lord Assad, the second son of the dark magic family. Instantly, the color drained from everyone's face. Lord Assad Van Valen, he's the true heir to the main branch of the dark magic family. A ruthless man, he was someone the entire clan was terrified of provoking. Cox, completely broken, mumbled, Lord Assad he's terrifying. I have to get away right now or he'll kill me for sure. Just then, I took a sudden step forward. In the next instant, I drew the dagger from my waist with a reverse grip. The move was a blur, too fast to follow. All anyone heard was a sharp shing. Cox's head had already rolled away, splattering me with warm droplets of blood. Holding the sword, still dripping with blood, my voice was calm, yet carried an undeniable authority. Chris, acting under the authority of the Count, has punished the traitorous criminal. At that, the Count stared at me and asked in a low voice, so, why did you make a decision like that? To execute Cox on the spot without a moment's hesitation if I had let Cox live. The main family would have immediately forged evidence to completely cover up this frame job. They would never allow the reputation of Essed's heir to be tarnished in any way. As they say, mercy for your enemy is cruelty to yourself. As I spoke, my gaze swept across the tribunal, over the people who were silent with fear. More importantly, I need everyone here to remember the truth forever. That it was Assad Van Valen who, to eliminate a rival, resorted to such despicable means. To frame me, the black sheep of the family. Count Hajar sighed, as if exhausted. There are too many eyes on us here. We need to find a place to speak in private. The scene then shifts to the Hajar family's secret training ground. Count Hajar continues the previous conversation. Do your words from earlier mean you intend to cause trouble for Essed's succession? Which successor one supports has always been directly tied to the family's power. Your decision might be pointed in the right direction, but you acted far too rashly. This has all but pushed House Hajar into opposition with the main house. He paused for a moment. But what's done is done. For now, our only option is to support the first princess. I don't intend to support anyone. The heir of a magic family. Count Hajar was completely stunned. What nonsense are you talking about? House Hajar is a branch family. Never before has a child from a branch family inherited the seat of the main house. I responded without rushing, but rules are not set in stone. As long as you have enough power, even someone from a branch family can claim the right of succession. Count Hajar looked at me with a complicated expression. That's just a rule in name only. How could the main house possibly tolerate a branch family meddling with the succession? They will cling to their power and never let go. If that were true, why would Isad go to such lengths to frame me? It's precisely because my talent in my youth made him feel threatened. Even after I fell from grace and became useless, he still refused to leave me alone. Doesn't that just prove that ability is the key to everything? Count Hajar was rendered speechless. But your current mastery of magic is far behind Esad's, isn't it? That man became a level 5 high-rank mage long ago, while I have only just entered the first star. My tone left no room for doubt. Don't worry, I will catch up to him soon. But to do that, I'll need your help, father. Please, use your authority to recommend me for the Sacred Dark Ritual 2 months from now. That's the only way to qualify to compete for the succession. Count Hajar shook his head repeatedly. You really are too naive. To participate in the Sacred Dark Ritual, your magic mastery must reach the 2nd level. To go from the 1st star to the 2nd level in 2 months is something no one has ever done before. A confident smile appeared on my face. Nothing is impossible. I will absolutely reach the 2nd level within the next 2 months. So please, help me, Dad. From that day on, Count Hajar began to personally oversee my daily training. Right now, I'm holding a dagger, swinging it according to the techniques my father taught me. A fierce sword technique suddenly erupted from me. It wasn't the basic Meyer sword style of the Black Claw Knights. It was the Hajar family's secret killing technique, the Black Lotus sword style, designed specifically to reap the lives of cornered enemies. Watching me swing the sword, my father just stood there, completely stunned. He had only just started teaching me the fundamental principles of the Black Lotus sword style today. And yet, I had somehow grasped its essence in an instant and could even perform a rudimentary version of the technique. It seems my talent is even more frightening than his was in his youth. My eyes flashed with excitement as I stared at the humanoid mushroom that was slowly walking out of the magic circle. The perfect opponent has arrived. The next moment, I suddenly shot forward. I was still using a restraining move from the Meyer sword style, but the technique carried a completely different kind of ferocity. This left my father with a look of utter disbelief on his face. Impossible. The limbs of that humanoid mushroom are hard enough to block a full-force strike from the normal Meyer sword style. I sheathed my dagger and explained calmly, it's because I tried something with the Meyer sword style. The instant the blade makes contact with the opponent, I envelop it with the killing intent of the Black Lotus sword style. The Meyer sword style restrains the body, while the Black Lotus's intent breaks through armor to kill the enemy. When you combine the two, the power is naturally on another level. Hearing this, my father instinctively wanted to criticize me, but he couldn't find any reason to argue. He could only say stiffly, the power has certainly increased. But, controlling the flow of magic for 2 different sword styles at once. Won't it be difficult to cast your curse magic as well? I just shook my head. Then, as I raised my dagger, I slowly lifted my other hand. A dense black cloud began to form out of thin air. It was a level 1 curse spell, bone-corroding miasma. It requires a constant infusion of magic to take shape. In the blink of an eye, half a month went by. One day, as I was collapsed on the training grounds, gasping for breath, a cold voice suddenly spoke up from behind me. Looks like you're completely exhausted. I struggled to turn my head and saw it was Merlin. She was standing at the entrance to the training grounds, her eyes filled with a mix of scrutiny and anticipation. The day of our promised duel is getting closer. She's been eagerly awaiting its arrival. She knew I had been improving rapidly. In just half a month, I'd already started to combine the 2 sword styles to a certain degree. But I was still just a level 1 mage. After she left, I mentally calculated my chances. Merlin is currently a level 4, upper grade mage. Each level is divided into 3 grades, lower, middle, and upper. For someone like me, who just reached level 1, upper grade, the gap between us is like an insurmountable chasm. But that doesn't mean I don't have a chance to win. With that thought, I headed out with a spring in my step. At the same time, Mary had also changed into a gorgeous outfit for our outing. It was her first time going out with a young master, so she had made a special effort to dress up nicely. Seeing this, I felt a surge of irritation. I had gone to my father before, intending to get rid of this ghost maid, but the answer I got was that Mary and I had signed a master-servant contract long ago. After all, without a binding contract, a high-level banshee is impossible to control. As for the condition to break the contract, I would have to give Mary a deep kiss. Just then, on our bird-drawn carriage, I spotted a familiar figure. Killian, what are you doing hiding here, you punk? Before long, we arrived at our destination. Before we went inside, I handed Killian a silver, animal-faced mask and explained that the rule here is you can't easily reveal your identity to anyone. Then, I lowered my voice and instructed Mary. From now on, stay invisible and hidden. Don't let anyone see you. And from here on out, just do exactly as I say. Once everything was arranged, I put on my mask and walked into the casino. Killian was tense and stiff, his steps even a little panicked. Seeing his state, everyone in the casino chuckled to themselves. Looked like another country bumpkin who's never seen the world. I took it all in, then clapped Killian on the shoulder. Since we're here, why not make a bet? See who can win more magic stones. As I spoke, I threw out a tempting offer. If you win, I'll call you Big Brother for the next month. How about it? Killian's eyes lit up. He quickly asked if I was serious. I swear, of course it's true. But if you lose, then for the next month, you have to call me, Your Respected Majesty, the King, my brother. And you can't leave out a single word, every time. Killian agreed without a second thought. For that prize, he felt he had to win this bet no matter what. But what he didn't know was, casinos always let beginners win a few rounds at first. Once the prey is bold enough to make big bets, they reel them in. And I knew all the tricks those swindlers used like the back of my hand. A moment later, I glanced over at a group not far away. A few demons were whispering to each other. Just as I thought, they'd already pegged Killian as an easy mark. Just as I expected, a swindler would soon take the bait. Right then, Mary floated silently to my side. She told me she'd found the guy the first was looking for. Before long, we arrived at a private residence. As I pushed the door open, guards, caught off guard, quickly gripped their weapons, demanding to know who we were. Hearing this, I raised my hand and slowly took off my mask. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know who I am, right? Just then, a portly, middle-aged man walked over, his expression panicked. He asked if there was some kind of problem here. Of course, there is, Guild Master Grant. You must be the owner of that casino, right? But you actually dared to plot against the young master of the Hazar family. Grant immediately trembled all over. You mean that beginner in the tiger skin mask at the casino was actually young Master Killian? I crossed my arms and slowly nodded. That's right, he is Killian, the heir to the Hazar family. So, let's call it 1 million lupe for compensation. The scene changes, and in front of me was a pile of equipment and resources. Mary floated at my side, her eyes filled with admiration. Young master, you actually used extorted money to buy combat gear. This plan is absolutely brilliant. But the thing they delivered to me, that sword, Grunnard, it was used a long time ago by a fallen hero. A worn-out holy sword. My fingertips gently stroked the scabbard. This is all part of my plan. By the way, I also bought you a gift. With that, I handed the necklace in my hand to Mary. I had noticed long ago that Mary always stared intently at all kinds of accessories. Mary's spiritual form instantly brightened. Whether in life or in death, this was the first time she had ever received a gift. After taking care of these matters, I turned to head back to the mansion. But after just 2 steps, I suddenly stopped. I kept feeling like I'd forgotten something important. It wasn't until the next morning, when an infuriated Killian came storming in to demand an explanation, that I suddenly remembered. I'd actually forgotten Killian at the casino yesterday. Still, the most important thing right now is to honor our promise, right, Killian? Killian's knuckles trembled slightly. After hesitating for a long time, he finally forced out from between his teeth. My respected majesty, the king, my brother. I patted him on the shoulder. You'd better keep showing that respect from now on. Seeing his flustered look, I laughed to myself. Who would have thought that such a naive guy would personally kill the original owner of this body when he grew up? Without a doubt, it must have been that Esad's doing. Since I've taken over this body, Esad and all those who are my enemies will have to settle their accounts properly. So, the first step is to get Merlin on my side. And to make him submit to me, I must master this sword in my hand, Grunnard. This worn-out, old holy sword. It once belonged to a fallen hero. Afterwards, although countless magic users tried to master it, they all ended in failure. I gripped the hilt of the holy sword, Grunnard, but my fingertips froze the moment they touched the blade. A faint tremor came from it, as if it were resisting an outsider's touch. Clearly, the holy sword was rejecting my magic. Realizing this, I took a deep breath and condensed a wisp of demonic energy at my fingertip. I precisely touched the sealing runes on the scabbard. It may be a holy sword, but at its core, it's still a weapon. If I can decipher the magical principles of the runes carved on it and get to the root of this magic-repelling reaction, then I can easily exploit the holy sword's weakness. With that in mind, I took out a magic hammer imbued with dense demonic energy. With this, it doesn't matter what holy sword it is. It will kneel and submit to me. A few days later, at the secret training ground, this highly anticipated duel had attracted quite a crowd. Count Dad and Killian were already there. And standing in the center of the field was a woman who looked somewhat familiar. She had the signature black hair and blood-red eyes of the dark magic family. In the next second, I recognized who she was. The captain of the main family's Black Shadow Knights, and Count Dad's own sister, Hazar Melian. The Black Shadow Knights are an elite force that directly protects the main branch of the dark magic family, and is responsible for secret surveillance and special missions. This Lady Melian before me was without a doubt someone who held real power in the family. Just then, Count Dad spoke up at the right moment. My sister, Melian, made a special trip here because of the matter with Cox. She's also here to watch today's duel. And on this trip, Melian also brought some astounding news. The old patriarch of the main family isn't interested in the squabbles between the younger generation, but he has become curious about me. I froze for a moment. This was a situation I had never anticipated. But for me, this was undoubtedly a good opportunity to get on the old patriarch's radar. Just then, Melian spoke, her tone dripping with scrutiny. I heard there was a duel, so I came to have a look. She said she wanted to know if I was being reckless or just plain stupid, challenging Merlin before even reaching 2-star rank. In her opinion, it would be better to just call off this duel. Thank you for your concern, but I have my own plan. After I spoke, the broken holy sword, Grunerd, was fully revealed for all to see. Melian turned to Count Hazar. Her voice was filled with incredulous anger. I knew he was a troublemaker, but I never imagined he'd be this absurd. Besides, brother, didn't you say Christian had stopped being a disgrace to the family? Then why is he using a holy sword for a duel? Hearing this, I asked in confusion, is there a rule against using a holy sword? As long as you win, any method should be fine, right? Melian clicked her tongue, reluctantly conceding the point. Even the old patriarch couldn't successfully master this holy sword. The holy power in it might just burn you to ashes. In response, I held Grunerd firmly. The holy sword remained perfectly calm in my hand. There wasn't the slightest sign of rejection or the holy power going berserk. Melian was so shocked she was speechless for a long moment. She wondered aloud, could that be a fake? Hearing that, I flicked my wrist and tossed Grunerd straight at Melian. She instinctively caught the holy sword. The next moment, its violent holy power erupted. Not daring to take it head-on, Melian quickly threw the holy sword back to me. Then she demanded, how on earth did you do that? I smiled and lifted my chin, telling her, that's a trade secret. No comment, but one thing is for sure. I can wield this holy sword that not even the family head could tame. The only reason is that I'm a genius. Just then, a crisp laugh suddenly came from the entrance of the training grounds. Everyone turned to look and saw Merlin walking slowly into the field. How interesting. To think you even managed to tame the holy sword. But that doesn't matter, because this will be the last time I get to be so smug in front of her. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, Merlin suddenly charged forward. Her speed was astonishing, completely incomparable to our previous duel when my magic was at level 1. I understood instantly. Whether in physical strength or magic power, I was far inferior to her. But the whole reason I went through all that trouble to get the holy sword wasn't to fight her head-on. With a roar, Merlin's longsword came crashing down, colliding hard with the broken Grunerd. The dark magic entwined around Merlin's sword was neutralized and dissipated the moment it struck the holy sword. This scene made Count Hazar so excited he couldn't contain himself. My goodness, this level of skill, it's even better than his sister's when she was young. But hearing this, Melian raised a hand and pointed. Look at how the boy moves to maintain precise control over the holy sword. To see that kind of mastery in a child who's only about 10 years old. That's what's truly terrifying. On the field, although I looked battered and exhausted, I still hadn't let any of Merlin's effective attacks land. Merlin quickly realized that I could somehow predict all of her attacks in advance. And my predictions relied on the universal principles of swordsmanship. Every move has a tell. For example, before raising an arm, you must first lower your shoulder. Before slashing, you must first twist your waist. This is an ironclad rule that neither masters nor novices can defy. Seeing that her relentless attacks were getting her nowhere, Merlin suddenly postured to retreat. Black magic then began to gather at her fingertips. This was a level 1 basic curse, capable of draining an opponent's strength and leaving them exhausted. Not to mention, she was now channeling it with level 3 magic power, making its potency worlds apart. However, faced with a draining curse powered by level 3 magic, I didn't move a muscle. I just blew a kiss in Count Hazar's direction. Count Hazar's face was a mask of sheer astonishment. That purification necklace was supposed to be a secret treasure hidden in the family vault. He had no idea when I had pilfered it. In a real fight, using a few little tricks is a part of one's strength. With that, I raised my hand and held up a dark-colored bead. With a boom, the bead instantly exploded in mid-air. Merlin reacted extremely quickly, just barely raising her sword to get out of the smoke's range. But my follow-up attack gave her absolutely no time to breathe. A bead emitting an ominous red light followed right after, precisely smashing into the spot where she was about to land. Using the smoke as cover, I shot out like a cheetah, the holy sword Grunerd in my hand whistling sharply through the air. as I slashed viciously at Merlin. With a loud clang of colliding metal, Merlin instinctively raised her sword to block. The instant they made contact, a dense web of cracks immediately appeared on her blade. This was the effect of the second bead I had thrown, because that was a level 2 rust curse. Having lost her weapon, Merlin didn't panic at all. Instead, a blazing fighting spirit reignited in her eyes. In her previous attacks, she had been holding back, not aiming to kill. But now, she had completely cast aside all her inhibitions. Her level 3 magic power erupted from her body without reservation. This made Melian, who was watching from the side, frown deeply. She could see that Merlin had completely lost her reason. At this critical moment, she would have to intervene in time to stop her. On the field, Merlin's fist, wrapped in ferocious level 3 magic, smashed towards my face like a heavy hammer. If I chose to block a bare-fisted magic impact head-on, then the result waiting for me would surely be broken bones and torn tendons. But just as the wind from her fist was about to touch my skin, instead of retreating, I advanced, my palm sliding sharply forward. My outstretched fingers deftly brushed past the layer of magic wrapped around Merlin's fist. Then, like flowing water, my fingertips followed the momentum and landed on her wrist. It was just a seemingly simple move to deflect her force, yet it made Merlin's unstoppable fist suddenly shift its trajectory. Then, a sharp glint flashed in my eyes. Grunnard was unsheathed in my hand like a flash of lightning. The cold touch made Merlin's whole body stiffen. After a moment of silence, Merlin suddenly threw her head back and laughed. This was a result she had truly never considered. I looked at the fighting spirit that hadn't faded from her eyes. Judging by your expression, you still seem quite satisfied with this outcome. In that case, please give me an answer to my earlier request. Even though I've won, I won't use force to demand your loyalty. Loyalty can never be forced. No matter what you decide today, I will respect your choice. Merlin stared into my eyes. Those eyes, which she once saw as belonging to a prodigal son, were now filled with determination and sincerity. Then, her tone carried a hint of anticipation. If she chose to submit to me, would there still be exhilarating duels like this in the future? Of course, as long as you're willing, I'm ready anytime. Meanwhile, Marian gazed at the setting sun outside the window. Back then, the old family head had also tried to conquer the holy sword, Grunnard. And she, as his most beloved daughter, stood by and witnessed it. The moment the old head's fingertips touched the holy sword, he was repelled by a backlash of its sacred power. The old head understood that although he could temporarily suppress it, he could not truly master it, because the fluctuations of dark magic were constantly changing. To adjust those fluctuations to a frequency the holy sword couldn't detect was nearly impossible. At that time, in the old head's view, perhaps only a demon from hell, or a madman who could control dark energy at will could ever do it. Marian's thoughts grew heavier. It seemed the dark magic family's years-long